Class is a relative social rank in terms of income, wealth, education, status or position, and/or power. Classism is a prejudice against social class.
When Fantine fell in society, when Marius fell but was able to make his way back up, they experienced classism.
Fantine was a poor woman working in Jean Valjean's factory to support both her and her child Cosette. She was kicked out of her job and forced to sell herself for her child. She first sold her hair and her teeth to make money, and then she sold her body, all for Cosette. This represents her place in the lower class. She lived in poverty and had to put herself through dire situations to barely make a living. Determined, empowered, Fantine did all she could to provide. Lower class in America is different than lower class in 1700s France. Today, lower class is defined as making below $23,000 a year. Fantine only made 12 sous a day, which back then would get you almost nothing. All she had was enough to house Cosette and feed Cosette. It got to a point where she had to give Cosette to the Thénardier. There are a lot of similarities in how low class in France compared to modern day low class. In both, many live in poverty and live uncomfortably. This is evident through Fantine's situation and others who live in lower class today.
Marius was raised in a higher class family in society. He lived a comfortable life until he was kicked out of his house due to the political differences between his grandfather and him. When he was kicked out, he was exposed to the poverty of the lower classes for the first time in his life. For the first time, he experienced days without bread, nights without sleep, evenings without a candle, a hearth without a fire, weeks without labor, a future without hope, humiliations, self-respect outraged, any drudgery acceptable, disgust, bitterness, prostration. Eventually, he was able to find work and get out of poverty, but he was still not as rich as before. This shows classism because Marius was treated much differently and lived a harder life once he became a lower class citizen. Just like classes in America, Marius was able to move through the different classes, but it was much harder to rise and much easier to fall.
Today in America, upper class, middle class, working class, and poor are the most commonly used class identities. 1 out of 5 children in the U.S. are living below the poverty line right now, which is the highest rate in over 20 years, while the top 10% of American earners have 50% of the nation's total income. This gives the higher class individuals much greater financial benefits and could lead to feelings of arrogance and superiority, while making the lower classes feel inferior and ashamed about their low class profile. Shonda Rhimes once lived below the poverty line and says, "Poverty is a constant state of insecurity. Poverty is choosing between food and electricity. Poverty is exhaustion in every way. Poverty is being hungry."
The idea of classism has been around since ancient history. Prejudice is shown to people in each class, and some classes are treated unfairly. Some people have to live in poverty while others are on yacht trips around the world. People are judged on how they live their lives. Marius and Fantine were both forced to live the lives they did. At one point, they had to struggle through the low class. Somehow, a solution must be made somewhere along the road to help people that can't help themselves. If people have to live the way Fantine and Marius had to, it would be miserable. Would you want to live a life like that?